This episode of Circle Live is about staying human while using AI, and many of the other findings from the State of the Web Design Industry Report 2026. But first, I'm going to introduce our extra special panel for today, starting with Christy Price, co-host of the Somewhat Useful podcast. Welcome to the show, Christy.
Thanks so much for having me back.
And also co-host of the Somewhat Useful podcast, Will Myers. Welcome to the show, Will.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Excited for this.
And then, for the first time today, we have a special co-host, Mike Gasper from Squarespace, who is one of the analysts on this report. Thank you for being here, Mike, and thank you for this report.
No, I'm excited to be here, excited to talk about it with everyone here.
There's so much to talk about. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into these numbers. We surveyed over 1,000 Circle partners for this report, and one of the things that came out is that the people in this report are incredibly experienced. 44% said that they have 10 plus years of experience in web design. Could you tell us a little bit more about the people that we surveyed and some of the interesting things that came out of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the exciting things about this report was the wide range of folks we spoke to. Certainly the deep experience, you mentioned the 44%, but I think there's also strong representation from some folks who were newer to the game. We had another 13% who have 1 to 3 years experience, another 3% who really just got started. But, we spoke to folks from over 20 countries, without question, underscores just the true depth of experience and expertise that exists throughout this community.
That number surprised me. That felt like it was it was a high number.
It really points to the fact that this is a career, right?
Yeah.
You can do this long
as
term.
a career, right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things to kind of add to that is that we asked people where they started, where these designers started. There was a significant chunk that came from marketing and advertising, followed by art and design. What does that say about this community? Does that ring true to your backgrounds? I guess I'm kind of asking, where did you all come from, and do you think that makes sense to you?
Well, I came from cognitive psychology, so I think I'm an outlier. But I do think that it's really cool to see what breadth of experience designers are bringing.
Yeah.
And as we kind of get into the numbers more, I think one of the things that really stood out to me is that it's not just building a website. There's a lot more to it. And so when you have experience in branding or marketing, it makes all the pieces so much easier.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that makes me think of our friend of Circle partner, Monica Kovac, who designs websites. She was a therapist, and now she designs websites for therapists.
Yes.
The reason that I think she's been so successful in that, in part, is not just because she's a good designer, but she knows how to connect with that community, and having that background means that you can connect with that community.
Yeah.
Did you have something to add to backgrounds and how that can connect to?
It doesn't. The data doesn't surprise me. I mean, Squarespace attracts these very thoughtful creatives, these really good designers, people with really good taste. And so it doesn't surprise me that is their My background was mathematical economics. So I am not someone who has the best design experience, but I love just being in this community because they bring so much to it.
That's so interesting.
I think that's an interesting point too, right? You can contribute a lot. You don't have to be the world's best designer. You can build a great website, and there's so many other parts to it in terms of strategy and content and usability that don't rely just on how pretty it is. So I think sometimes we get bogged down in how can we make this website cool and pretty and
get the colors right.
Yeah.
And it's just
there's so much more to it.
There's more to it. Yeah. And I think especially, I'm sure we'll get into it, but with AI, I feel like we're allowed to sort of take it a step higher and sort of think about design on a more strategic level with companies. So it's kind of exciting, this new world we're in. But I just want to say that to anyone who's feeling threatened about it. Like, that's a very normal feeling. This thing is changing and evolving so fast.
So fast.
And month over month, we have like these step changes in the different AI models and what they're capable of. But also at the same time, if you can look at your job as sort of getting a step higher, thinking more strategically, your goal is to help your client get their result. And whether they don't care if you use AI or not most of the time. And if you can do that for them, you will be successful, I think, in your career.
A lot of creative fulfillment. There's more creative fulfillment that comes from people who are have worked with AI. And perhaps part of the reason for that is because we talked a little bit about this on your show on Tuesday, is that there's more time that you get back from using AI.
When we spoke to those folks, it was a matter of they can focus more deeply on the tasks they're completing. They can focus on higher order tasks with the time they're saving with artificial intelligence. And I think that just speaks to when, there's a lot of that conversation about we don't want this to replace what we're doing. And I think the beauty of a lot of what the Circle members who are using this effectively is, no, I actually just get more time to do the stuff that actually interests me.
Yeah.
So let's move to a different area of the report, talking about service offerings. This year we saw that clients were asking Circle partners for content creation at 62%, which is up from 55% last year. Are you being asked more for content creation?
When I started doing websites, people would come to me and say, I need a website. And I'd build them a website. And I didn't really have a lot of strategy for them. And over the years, what I've learned is that when clients come and they say, I want a website, what they really want, they want somebody to guide them. They want somebody to offer strategy, to help them with prompts about what the content should be like on their website. They don't have those answers. And I think when you start positioning yourself as this guide for your clients, you're a lot more successful. So it makes sense to me to see that in the numbers, that more designers are being asked to step into that role of guide because people realize that's what they're missing.
There's a part in the web design process that a lot of web designers really find frustrating, which is sort of gathering the content from your client. And that part's really difficult. And a web designer can take a bunch of time creating that placeholder copy for them, but it needs to be pretty good placeholder copy because the client has to really imagine it, And now with AI, we can kind of get pretty good placeholder copy in there. So I think as designers, we're all seeing it's we can do this whole thing together. We can get these placeholders. And it's not going to be the best using AI for sure, but it allows us to move this process. It allows us to fix our process and move a lot faster through it, which makes it more enjoyable for everyone. Your initial question was are we offering more things? Are you seeing more offerings? I am feeling that as well. I am starting to offer more. I have two things I mostly sell, which is plugins on my website, and I have a toolkit with some AI. But now I'm just kind of branching more into building custom components within Squarespace because I want to get closer to the client. I want to get closer to the person who actually gets value out of this, so I can understand what is the value of AI, what is useful, what is not. And I can't do that if I'm kind of a step away from the clients just selling plugins. I want to be getting closer in. So that's just a very specific data point for me, but I am feeling myself needing to expand my service offering to see how AI kind of fits into everything and where it works and where it doesn't.
My reaction when I saw the range of services offered was, how do you guys find the time? Truly, you look at all, you look at this data and it's yes, 86% are offering website building, 62% are offering content creation, brand creation, website maintenance, SEO. There's so much here. I guess my question for you is, how has that evolved from when you first started, and how have you adapted your workflow to continue to deliver what I assume is a high bar of quality on all of these different layers of asks from these clients?
I think one of the things that differentiates people who have been doing this for 10 years versus people who, try it for a year or two and then just burn out is the people that have been doing it for longer. We are developing processes that are repeatable. And so after each project, I go back and I say, what worked with this project? Where was there some friction? How can I make that better for the next project? Was there anything that would have made this an easier win? And so adapting that process and making it more repeatable. So you're not building the plane while you're flying. You're not, reinventing the wheel with every project. You have something that you're bringing to it. And then it's easy to say, okay, now I've got this. It feels natural. I feel like we've got a really great system. Now I can add AI on top of that because, I've done this enough times that it feels easy. So I think that for me, it really is honing those processes and getting those systems in place. And that allows you to branch out and learn more things with all that time you've saved.
So are you bundling these together? If you sell a website, are you saying the SEO is included, the copywriting is included? Are you sort of including all of that in a bundle, or are you still line iteming each one?
I I actually do project pricing, but I am not a copywriter. So I don't include the copy, but I work with copywriters. And I think that's going to get us into another question about collaboration that I find really fascinating as well. But for me, I basically have a productized service.
Sure.
So I know how this works. I know how long it takes. I know all the steps to get what I need from the client. And they feel very much at ease because I'm driving the train.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you feel like as a client, if you feel like the designer is taking charge, and that gives you so much more confidence.
Yes.
And will drive.
I mean, those were mistakes that I made earlier on. I became a pixel pusher for somebody who wanted to play art director, and it's just not a win for anybody.
That's a good
Nobody's ever
articulation.
happy. Yeah. So, I do think as you're going, you're growing your business and you're learning more about web design, if you start looking at where can I make this easier for myself and my client, you're going to really uncover a lot of things that will help your business last. Yeah.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
Thank you.
You might be referring to a part in the report where people reported that over half actually reported that they do at least some of the work completing projects started by others. 45% say none of it. That's close to an even split.
Yeah.
I don't know what an analyst would say about that. It's close.
I'll allow it.
It's close. It's close. But yeah, it does seem like there is this trend toward collaboration rather than competition, perhaps you might even say.
Absolutely. And I feel like, when you're just starting out as a designer, you can, at least I felt like I was alone. But when I moved to Squarespace, I found the Circle community, and I started finding people who were at the same stage in their business as I was. And we all kind of had the same experiences and same questions. And we started, just forming these organic groups where we could talk about those challenges, and maybe somebody would have something that worked for them that they would share. And that's one of the things that I love most about this community. It really is a rising tide lifts all ships mentality, which I really appreciate.
And one other question we had was, how frequently do you partner with folks outside of your agency company? And about 60% said at least sometimes. And I guess my question is, how do you delineate, and you touched on this a little bit, but how do you delineate between, hey, this is something I can or want to tackle myself versus, hey, I'm going to go outside for this. I'm going to outsource or work with another partner I know might have the expertise in the field. Where do you kind of draw that line? What are the decision criteria, I suppose?
Yeah, I think it's different for every person and where you are in your journey. Yeah. So maybe when you're starting 100%. Out, you actually need the income and you don't need to split that with someone else. And so maybe you're doing tasks that you don't enjoy, but you can do and you can do well. And then later on, perhaps as you've built up, your referral network and you have more clients coming in, you can be a little choosier and you can take on a project and say, I really want to work with this person, but they also need help with this one thing. And I just don't like doing that. And that's when you can bring in a collaborator. But it also depends on your collaborators. Like, do you have a network of them? Do you trust them to work with your clients because you want it to be a home run for that client?
I couldn't agree more with that. No, 100% you should look at where you are in your business first. And like, if you're at the beginning of your business, you probably need that money. Like, figure it out how to do the best you can with what you have. I know that's exactly how I was at the beginning.
Yeah, me too.
And then you're at like the beginning stage of your business. You're just muscle and feeling things around. And then the second stage, you're kind of building systems and processes. You're doing that.
And you're learning what you like and what you don't like.
You're learning what you like and what you don't. You're building your communities. You're figuring out who's good, who's not. Another, like one little quick thing I would add on to that is make sure the person you hire, like you like their work, like you've said that before, because a big part of bringing someone in is the mental load, like you not thinking about it. And if you're just hiring the cheapest person you can, you will still carry that mental load. I promise you. And it makes it almost not worth it.
And it's important to find people that kind of match your vibe.
Yeah.
That's kind of a wonky way to say it. But, I'm super process driven and my clients get a checklist and they know they have a calendar. They know exactly what's happening when, what I need from them.
Yeah.
And then if I throw somebody else in who's like, I think, it's a full moon and we, this is when we write about this, then that might not be the best fit for me or my client because it's a big shift in how things are working. It's really great to surround yourself with people who have a similar style of work that you do. And that just makes it easier for everybody.
Yeah.
But I loved what you were saying about, the different stages of your business and where you are and how that really determines it.
Yeah. At the beginning, and this is not Will Meyer's IP, so, and I don't know where I got it from, but I took it from someone years ago. But I just loved the metaphor of just like the different stages of a business. And the first is muscle and feeling. Second is systems and processes. And I haven't graduated that, so I don't know what the next two steps are. But those are.
I think you become a wizard after that.
I think it's a wizard. After that.
Yeah.
I think that's it.
I read that, yeah.
But it's just been a helpful framework for me to like understand, okay, right now, like I don't need, like I shouldn't focus on a system. Like, because I would do that. Like at the beginning, I would over focus on like, oh, okay, I'm going to build a website. Now, before I go out and get a client, I'm going to figure out what my system is. It's like, no, go out and get a client. Like the first 10 things you should do, you need to just go out and do it.
And iterate.
And then once you've done that, now let's start building some systems in place. But it's like focusing on the right things at the different stages of your business has been, it's a hard thing to learn, and that kind of helped me understand it a little bit more.
We're talking about relationship building.
Yep.
Which, another thing that AI is really bad at.
Yes.
And I'll use it also, I'll put it in these terms as well. The two of you, your business partners, you have a podcast together. That's one thing that you partner
It's
on.
somewhat useful.
It's someone useful. Yeah, just check it out. It's
I've heard
somewhat
that.
useful. Yeah.
.com? .org?
.com. Someoneusefulpodcast.com.
You can use AI to help you brainstorm ideas for future episodes, maybe connect you to some future guests.
Yeah.
You can even use AI to have voices in the podcast. AI can create podcasts right now.
Yeah.
Right? But I happen to know, because we talked before the show, that the two of you went to dinner last night.
Did.
Maybe you talked about business, or maybe you didn't, but you built a relationship over the
bit,
course of that business, right? And maybe you used an AI to find what restaurant you went to, but you didn't have an AI with you at the table.
No.
You didn't.
And the reason, I hope not, right? Yeah.
No, I don't think there was any point one of us pulled out our phone and said, "Let me ask."
Right.
Yeah.
And that's because where business really happens is in those sort of in-between moments. You
Yes.
have the things,
Yeah.
the process that you're doing, but also the relationship that you build happens
Yes.
outside of the Zooms. It happens outside of the
Correct.
AI conversations.
Yeah.
It really happens when you're having those human moments that AI could never, at least
Yeah.
not for the next 100 years, replace.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, you got to have the relationships that I've built within the Squarespace community, and like all my friends, my Squarespace friends, that I
your real
attribute
friends?
them. Yeah, those are my real friends. No, that's a higher level of friendship. That's a higher level. Like I attribute like a lot of any little success I have to the relationships that I've been able to make, because it's if you're like creating a YouTube video or like writing a little blog post or just trying to put something into the world, it can be very nerve-wracking, like creating something and then letting other people judge it, and like having the
so
relationships that will give you either good feedback or just be like, this is good, to put it out. Like that's super helpful for progressing in your career.
One of the standout data points that we saw was in terms of the client industries that Squarespace designers are seeing work from. Specifically, communities and nonprofits saw a jump this year. Mike, do you have that data point?
I do. So 36% of the folks we surveyed this year indicated that they had done some work for folks in the community and nonprofit industry. That's up from 29% last year. And I'm curious, I have a couple hypotheses here of why do you think that's the case? Is that because clients in these industries maybe require a bit more of your expertise than others?
I think, with those kinds of orgs, you do have a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and you have a lot of people who may need to go in and update things on the website. And I'm guessing that everybody used Squarespace that you interviewed, and it is kind of the perfect platform for that, where you're teaching somebody, let me show you how to add a team member. Let me show you how to update this number of donations. And it's really easy for them to do.
And this is very anecdotal, but I do think more like communities and nonprofits are typically a lot of times further back on like the technology stack. And I think maybe we're seeing sort of a catch up of, it's worth investing in a website. So now let's rebuild our website from 2008.
We've been seeing that with the RFPs.
Yeah.
So many are coming in and saying, I want a Squarespace website.
Correct.
And they were on a different platform before.
Yeah.
Just to hit on some point that I thought was interesting, you've had RFPs come in where they're saying, I want a Squarespace website,
Yes.
which that's a differentiator this year. Yeah.
There's
I'm seeing more of that. Yeah.
There's that, and there's a lot of RFPs that are open to Squarespace, but a lot of people, there's this idea that you can't build like a large website on Squarespace. Like there's so many of these myths about just like SEO and just like, oh, well, we can't do this on Squarespace because it doesn't allow for X, Y, Z. And it does. Squarespace does. But there's just this like catch up of like the marketing, I guess, of the capabilities. So there's a lot of like educating we do. It's like, no, it can do this, and we can show you how. And then once they figure that out, they're like, this is great. Like I wanted to use Squarespace from the beginning because it's so easy to use. But
yeah, and
we're
also
able to see it.
anecdotally, we saw someone come in for a project that we're both kind of helping out with another designer, and she came in, she was the new head of this organization, and she said, well, I built my wedding website on Squarespace, and now I have this massive org, and I need this great website for it, and I want it to be Squarespace. So we're seeing people who've adopted it earlier who want to take it in new directions, which is really cool.
People reported that one of their top barriers to business was that they couldn't find new clients. We know that that's something that's been reported every year.
Sure.
It's always there. Yeah.
It's always there. It's always a problem. But one of the reasons they gave, the top barrier, was that they were too busy working on their current projects.
Yes.
What is a solve that you would have if a younger, newer, less than 10 years web designer were to come to you and say, I'm just too busy working on my projects. I don't even have time for this conversation.
Shamelessly, when I was starting my business, I got a t-shirt that said web designer, and I wore it out and about. And that's how I got my first clients. So you can try that. But if you're too busy working on your other projects, then I would say it comes back to what we were talking about earlier, is getting those systems in place so that you are creating more space for yourself, maybe even outsourcing some of those tasks to other designers so that you can keep that engine going of clients coming in. And I will say that I found that as I've honed my processes over the last 7-8 years, I do get more referrals that way. And so the more seamless you make that process for your client, the more they're going to remember you and refer other people to you. And also, send them a nice gift with your logo on it so you're always top of mind.
You are great with merch. I have like 3 or 4 pieces in my bag right now that say Christy Price on them. And I use them, like a flashlight. I have a hat. I have I think a notebook. I have it all.
What? Listen,
makes me
let's
so
promo
happy.
it. What is it? /merch, ChristyPrice.com/merch /.
Yeah.
I'll say it's great that you mentioned that, because beyond not having it too busy working on projects, the second was not enough brand awareness. That's the second biggest barrier.
Yeah.
So I love
Get a
that it's coming
flashlight,
out.
get a bag, get a hat.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's
Make everyone your billboard.
Yeah.
Yes.
absolutely. You've done a great job of that.
Yeah.
I would say great, keep going. Like that's the first goal, is to be too busy, and then the second goal is to figure out how do you grow your business by taking on more work or charging more. That's how it works. It's not a complicated math problem.
Yeah.
And if you're too busy, figure out how to improve either one of those. Either start charging more until your work sort of levels out. If you want to just stay by yourself, that can be tough. Or hire someone, and then you can offload that work. That can also be tough. But I do think I have a view about businesses that they're much like relationships. They're either growing or they're dying. They're not like staying static. And so I think it's a good thing if you're busy, and you need to kind of keep pushing to get to that next level of figure out, what do you want to do with this? Do you want to increase your prices? Do you want to take on more work? Either one of those.
And I do want to say, if you're in the first few years of your business, you're going to be busy. You're figuring everything out.
are.
And it feels like you are just juggling all the time, and, just drop the balls and bounce.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Drop the balls that bounce. Yeah, with all the juggling.
Yeah.
I also I find the idea of there's a narrow view of work-life balance. That it's like, okay, I'm going to start at 9 and end at 5, and I'm going to be done at 5. And I see it much more of it's much more seasonal. And if you have a lot of work, realize maybe that part of your business season is going to be busy. You're going to have more you're going to need to do.
Yeah.
And you might need to stay up later and get the work done. And then, but the goal is to get to those seasons where you can relax a little bit more and sort of be more open.
One thing I was curious about when I saw this, too busy working on current projects, we obviously touched on like, hey, it's a lot of business. I wondered, is there any element of being a perfectionist, being kind of, I'm too busy because I'm pouring my heart and soul into this particular project.
Great point.
Versus, oh, I've got too many projects. Like, no, I just want to get this exactly the way I envisioned it.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I do think there is a lot of times we as designers, as people who are creatives, we do over deliver. And that's, it's not necessarily a bad thing in general. Like, I don't want to beat that out of someone and be like, that's bad. No, do more work, productivity, move. Like, you need to still enjoy your work, but there is, I don't know, there is a time where you need to figure out, like, what is valuable to my client? Like, what does my client need out of this? And maybe I could be using that time that I'm over-focusing on this work to either find more helpful ways to help this client or find other clients myself. I don't know. But I think there's a good bit of that where you spin. You just circle the mountain too many times on what a project is. And that easily could be part of that data. That's interesting.
One of my first bosses, when I was working at a startup doing web design, I remember him coming over to me. It was like 5 o'clock on a Friday, and I was still working on something. And he was like, "You're done." And I was like, no, Matt, I still need to do, he's like, "No, it's done. And done is better than perfect. Go home." And so I hear Matt from time to time in my brain. It's like, done is better than perfect. Go home. But I do think the type of people who are drawn to, this entrepreneur life, being a web designer, are very often people who may have perfectionist tendencies. So I think that's definitely a challenge.
I've always thought about it. I've had jobs since I was 14 years old, and the thing that I've learned about my working life, when I was like working in restaurants or in as a barista or whatever, is that there's always a lot of work. There's always work to do. If you can lean, you can clean. There's always a guy who says that too, right? But the thing I think I've learned just in any job that I've had is that if you're feeling too busy, if you're feeling like there's too much going on, it's just that you haven't learned how to slack off yet. There's a right there's like a right way to do it, and there's a right way to there's like a time in the day when serving coffee when it's a little bit slower where you can just be like, okay, I'm gonna go hang out and watch some videos on my phone or whatever. There's a time to do that when it's not gonna matter to anybody, and that's your relaxation time, and then you can get back into it. But figuring out that balance of like when you can slack off and when you can't slack off, that's just something that we all have to learn. I love where this conversation has gone. I'd love to end on this sort of note about work and creative fulfillment, because that's something that definitely came up in the report. Creative fulfillment. You don't always just want to deliver to your clients. You want to feel creative fulfillment in the work that you're doing. How long did it take you in your careers to feel creatively fulfilled?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think for me, it was really when I got out of my own way with... We talked before about how when I started out, I was basically reinventing the wheel with every project. And it was just so incredibly stressful and time consuming. And once I kind of developed these systems and processes, I was able to take a breath and then understand that part was easy now. And now I could focus on this being creative and what I was delivering instead of just delivering.
I think my creative fulfillment comes from coding, like building stuff through code.
You do it for fun.
I really do it for fun. The first couple of years, I was living in Seattle in a micro apartment, like building websites, and just like barely making enough money kind of to sort of make it by. And I didn't really enjoy the whole process of building a website. It was just like communicating with the client, grabbing the content and like putting it together. I didn't enjoy that whole process, but I like really dove into code stuff. The client would ask, "Hey, can Squarespace do this?" And I was like, not out the gate, but I think we can with code.
Hold my beer.
I would code something. Right, hold my beer. And then I would just go, I remember being like 2, 3 in the morning, figuring out some piece of code to make it work on their site, and the client was super happy. And then like a few months later, I just woke up being like, I think I love code. This is like, I didn't go to school for code, any of that, but I just woke up being like, this is what I love. And at that point, that's when I kind of started slowly to pivot more towards coding, building plugins, software engineering. That was like, and that's what I really got the vast majority of my creative fulfillment from, was kind of that pivot. Like still in the Squarespace ecosystem, still building stuff exclusively for Squarespace, but focusing in on just the coding aspect of it. And that's like I haven't looked back. I love it.
Beautiful stories. Well, Mike, I hope you feel creatively fulfilled in this report.
I do. I thoroughly enjoyed this, not just this conversation, but this entire process. It was really fun to dig into the data. And as you alluded to earlier, there's so much in here.
There's a lot in here.
Yeah, and make sure you click through in the report. There are some buttons that you might miss as you're looking at the report online that go even deeper into some really interesting topics.
Well, we should all feel creatively fulfilled with this conversation that we had today.
Yes.
Very much so.
It bounced back and forth. We talked a lot of things. We covered a lot of territory. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the forum.